There we are. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to 2A Tuesday. It's a little after 9 o'clock Tuesday night. That means it is the time and the place to all of us get together and talk about all things 2A and also a lot of things that are not 2A. But tonight, we're going to hopefully have a nice, lively discussion, have a little bit of fun, and maybe we will just get a little educational too, is kind of what we're hoping. First and foremost, we would like everybody to like the video and share this. It is live right now, so go ahead and share the link if you want to, and invite all your friends to come join and chat with us, whether it's on Gun Channels or on YouTube. If you are out there in the chat, make sure you drop us a comment, tag one of us, or just say hello, because we want to know that you all are out there. And if you're on the Gun Channel side, we can see you whether or not you're talking. So we can see you.
ASMR this episode.
Hello, folks. It's time for 2A Tuesday tonight.
No, we're not going to do that because I would.
I tell you what, if I did this for an entire chat, I would be the first one that would fall asleep.
So we're not going to do that. No ASMR tonight. Not going to happen. But the people that do that, they have my respect just because they can do it without falling asleep themselves and boring the heck out of themselves. So also make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we are planning a big giveaway once we get to 1,600 subscribers here on YouTube. We also need to have a few other platforms that we're on get up more in the membership, though. So if you are part of Gunstreamer, please go subscribe to us over on Gunstreamer as well, because we're not giving anything away until we get to 200 over on Gunstreamer. So we got to make sure that that grows as well, along with all of the YouTube likes and subscribes and follows on Facebook, just because we don't know how much longer we all will be able to do this here on YouTube. So we've got to make sure that we've got our other avenues already open, and I think Gunstreamer is going to be one of the best ones. So let's make sure we all get over there. You're right, Snob's wife. I cannot see you over there on the Gun Channel side. Oops, I guess I can. So over on Gun Channels, who do we have tonight? We've got the Pants, we've got David Bowling, we've got Snob's wife, and we've got Dead Horse. So welcome everybody over on gunchannels.com. If you want to check us out, we are simulcasting live as always over on Gun Channels. You just go to gunchannels.com/Sandhills Shooter, and you can find us over there as well and take part in chat over there. Otherwise, if you're here on YouTube, welcome. Who do we have out there? We've got Kingpin was first. We've got Clint Taurus, my favorite name on YouTube. We've got I am Giz Holio. Awesome. Snob's wife is out there. Who do we have? Hill Climb Ohio JB, Midnight Range, Jason Stewart, Vandalistica Vlogs is in the house. What's up, Vandal? Gamer Guy, what's up? Hanging out over in Iowa. Blokes 2 Cents. We've got Blue Steel. Who am I missing? My lovely bride, Sandhills Sweetheart, is tuning in from an undisclosed location in a different part of the house. She's not here in the office, in the studio with me tonight. So that means we're not going to have our master list of people to thank or to say hi to at the end of the night, but I bet we survive. Let's see, who else do we have out there? Vash Matrix, Obnoxious, holding it down in a couple places. Travis is out there and in here. Kingpin is out there and in here. So we've got a great crew of people, and I expect more and more will join all the time. So with that said, let's let everybody say hello who is in here in the chat. We normally save this guy for last. It's not because he's the best. It's just because I go from left to right most of the time on my screen. Ooh. But so we'll just do that again. We'll make Travis wait. No, Travis P11 is here coming at us from another undisclosed location.
Yes,
somewhere in Nebraska. But this dude's a jet setter now. He's got homes in multiple locations. He's really hit the big time. And so you never know where the heck you're going to see him broadcasting from. It might be somewhere near the state capitol. It might be somewhere out in the central part of the state. It might be somewhere from his family's home. We never know where the heck he is. We're going to put a bell on him just to keep track of him. It's Travis P11.
Well, I'm going to do a little parody of a ludicrous song. I've got homes in different area codes. So there we go. No, man, I appreciate the invite. Thank you very much. Just let you guys know I should be starting up Caliber Corner in a couple weeks here. Just been super busy, and it's tough running 2 different areas I have to go between that are 250 miles apart. I do have a lot more videos coming your way and some more range tests coming up, so a lot more content. So check me out, Travis P11 on YouTube, Gunstreamer, Guns Channels, guntube.org, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's all good. And here, of course. Thanks, man.
Oh, those places. Check out Travis P11's videos. You'll be glad you did. All right. If you can say hi before you're done working, we will let Squib say hello real quick. Squib is here. Maybe he's here. He was here.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. Squib will be with us more when he is no longer tied down to work commitments in about another half hour. All right. Moving right along. We've got Obnoxious One. Orange Man Good is in the house.
I do not have homes in different zip codes, or was it area codes?
Area codes.
Area codes. Sorry, I'm not up on the hip hop.
Well, that's about 15 years old, so I don't think anybody remembers that song. But I understand. So it's an old ludicrous song from back in the day. So
I don't have homes in different area codes, but I do have friends in low places.
There you go. Don't we all?
And they're all here.
Wow. Thanks, brother.
Are you saying this it doesn't get any lower of a place than this right here? That's
we'll burn that bridge when we get there.
I guess if that shoe fits, I'll put it on.
Bring it for a hug. Bring it for a hug.
Hey, is that a Flash shirt?
Yeah.
I've just been flashed by Travis P11.
Stop flashing us. This is a family show. No flashing.
Sorry.
I always thought I thought your name was Travis, not Barry Allen.
Oh, geez. Well, it's got to try to keep a low profile. So
yeah, I get you. Your alter ego has an alter ego.
Yep.
Keep it on the DL. It keeps all your family safe. I get it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Coming at us also from over on the eastern part of the country, we've got Kingpin David Bowling.
How are you, sir? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. How's things going with you lately?
Summertime is usually super busy, so just working a lot, but doing really good.
I hear that. Anything I know you're busy, but videos coming out or big plans at all on the channel or other places that people can find you besides YouTube?
You can check me out on Instagram. Let's see what else. Guntube.org and then gunchannels.com. So if you see a video of mine post on YouTube, it's going to be on Guntube and Gun Channels. So go watch it over there instead.
There you go. Keep these other platforms relevant and build them up so that we can always have them to fall back on, because we don't like being told what to do and nobody puts baby in a corner, right?
Never.
All right. I saw you sneaking and clucking your way in here at the last minute. My neighbor to the south, Gizzard Gary's here.
What is up, man?
We're just chilling like villains in here.
Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And then last but not least, he was not first out in the chat like he sometimes likes to say, but he was the first one to come join me in the hangout tonight. We've got the California Cucumber himself, Tactical Pickle, Calaveras.
Thanks for the invite. Sandhills, you can find my stuff, obviously here on YouTube, but also on Gunstreamer, Instagram, and I try to throw stuff up on GunTube occasionally, but I just try not to P11 his servers over there, so I want them to stay functional.
We don't want to vid me.
No, we don't want to vid me. Don't want to vid me that one. No.
Or I guess I don't know. Should we call it vid me-ing or should we just call it P11ing? I think P11.
Just say you don't want to vid me it. Just
we don't want the Travi effect.
No, we do not.
It's definitely
we do not want to take that website. That'd be terrible if that happened.
All right. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about, or hopefully quite a bit, about some of these quote-unquote common sense gun laws. We hear all the time from lawmakers, and mostly the anti-gun lawmakers, or Every Town for Gun Safety or Bloomberg or all these other people, hogwash down in Florida. We're hearing all the time that we just need some of these common sense measures to be put into effect to keep us all safe. And so we're going to talk about some of these, and we're not just going to stomp them into the dirt and move on. We kind of want to look at these a little bit and see if we can kind of figure out where they're coming from. Why was this proposed to begin with? Is it a good idea or is it not? Will it work? Or if it's already a law that's in place, did it work? And why? Why or why not? Do we like this idea? So it's not just going to be a chance to come in here and all of us rip on these laws. But if we rip on them, fine. As long as we have reasons for it. That's the biggest thing. And then also we'll have a chance to talk about what we all think would be common sense as far as gun laws and the things that would be common sense to keep people safe. Because we want to end on a positive note, right? And end on a high note.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of get into all this and do as much as we can to cover some of these topics. First, I haven't built this video because I don't really know how to actually put this into a standalone video, but I do want to just mention there's a lot of stuff going on lately, especially over the weekend. I keep hearing about how racist our president is and how he's made these racist comments. And I think I'm just going to take a couple seconds here on this live broadcast just to go on the record and put my opinion out there. You can pick on somebody. Well, I shouldn't say you can. If you pick on somebody for the color of their skin or the bone structure of their face or, things like that actually have to do with their the part of the world that their genetic info originates from, that's racism. Okay? It doesn't matter what country you're from, where you're born, what language you speak. Your race is your race, and nobody can change their race. It's one of those things like gender, or the way gender should be. It is what it is, and we don't make fun of people for that. At least decent people don't make fun of people. You don't pick on people. You don't discriminate for skin color or hair color, eye color, any of that. However, being from a specific country is not a race. Belonging to a specific religion is not a race. Coming from a certain part of the world is not a race. Okay. The comments that Trump made, whether or not they were in good taste, and we're not going to get into that. I just want to go on record and say that he's getting blasted for things. I'm tired of the word racist being thrown around so much. Is he a jerk sometimes? Yeah. We all knew that before he got elected. There was no secret that he was a jerk. Is he racist? I can't see any evidence. I've not seen evidence that would indicate that he is. Yeah, he's made some really mean, hurtful comments to different people. But if you look at his track record, who he's had business dealings with, who he's employed, things like that over the years, I don't see racism there. So just when we're making comments, let's actually call things what they are. And if he's singling people out because they're of African descent or of Asian descent or of Native American descent, something like that, yeah, that's racism. If he's saying go back to where you came from, then maybe he shouldn't say that, but that's not racist. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that part out there. Snob's wife out there, I just happened to see the comment that says Orange Man bad. Yeah, he's stirred up a hornet's nest. That's what Trump does. Some people say he should get off Twitter. Other people say that's the whole reason he got elected was because he does get on Twitter. So it is what it is.
She means obnoxious.
Well, that Orange Man?
That's what she meant by
well,
Orange Man
I
bad.
called him Orange Man good.
That's what I always call him.
And that is the correct definition of Orange Man. Snob's wife is just jealous.
Of
She's hateful.
Of what?
She's mean and she's hateful.
of your strikingly bald palate up there? Or
Yes.
okay,
Pate.
Oh.
It's pate, by the way.
Now
On
we
top of your
know.
head is a pate. The thing in your mouth is a palate.
Okay, well, either way, I thought that was pate.
But my palate is bald as well.
But that's good, probably.
No, yeah.
I think we've all had those mornings where we woke up and had a little hair in the dog that bit us. Okay, well, let's get this train back on its tracks. All right. So one of the first, I wrote down a list of laws here, and we get some time. We're gonna, we'll cover whatever everybody else brings to the discussion too. One of the first ones that I want to talk about is one that Calaveras brought up. This has just recently been enacted. Apparently now it's common sense in the state of California, at least, that before you can buy ammo, you need to go through a background check. So it's not enough to put a background check on a firearm sale. Now we're also going to add that extra stumbling block in there on ammunition sales. And the way I understand it, the first couple days, that system crashed and nobody could even purchase ammo. So, Calaveras, can you, since you've got firsthand experience, you live there, can you enlighten us a little bit on what's happened since then? Do they have their system up and running now? And have you bought ammo since the 1st of July?
I have not bought since the 1st of July. I stocked up with almost 3,000 rounds, in the last week of June, so that I didn't have to deal with it for a little while. I don't know for a fact, but I kind of doubt the system's functioning at this point, because last I had heard was mid-June, and the gun shops and other ammo sellers hadn't even received final word from DOJ about how they're going to have to report this and what exactly they're reporting. I can't confirm that's for exactly because I haven't purchased, but from what I've heard since, they record your name, whatever information that they require about you. That's to do the background check. They record who sells the ammo, what caliber it is, how much it is. I don't know if they record brand or not. I don't care about that. So basically, and they record the date and time of the sale. So basically, they have everything they need to know what kind of firearms you're shooting.
Yeah, for the most part.
I have a question about that. So, is there a limit on this? Is a one-time check at the point of purchase, and then if you go to the gun store the next day, you have to start it all over again, right?
If you walk in there, buy a box of 9mm, walk out and realize, oh, crud, I needed to pick up a box of 30-06 for deer hunting next weekend. Go back in, you have to do it again because it's one check per point of sale.
Okay, but you could go in and buy 10 boxes of 9mm, 10 boxes of 30-06, 10 boxes of 223 in one sale and walk out and go, all right, I ain't got to deal with them for another month or something, right?
At this point, I have not heard of any, cap on quantity.
Is there any reason to think that that's not the next step that's going to be taken, though? I mean, at this point now they can track every ammo sale. They not only know what's being sold, but they can see who's buying it and how frequently. So they're going to know who is amassing their quote unquote arsenal and quote unquote stockpiling ammo. And so, I mean, I guess if it was me, that would be my concern. Is that's the next step. Once this law gets, people get kind of used to it and it kind of blows over a little bit. Then the next step is, okay, so now we're going to put a limit on how often you can buy ammo or how much you can buy ammo, things like that.
See, this is what I don't understand about that. If you can buy as much as you want in one purchase, but you have to do the check every time you do a point of sale, then why wouldn't you buy in bulk? So this would encourage people to buy more ammo. If they don't want you to have ammo, this just encourages you to buy more, which defeats the purpose. The other thing is, because it's a consumable item, you could just say, if they knock on your door and go, okay, we heard you got 1,000 rounds of 38 special, turn them over. You'd be like, I went to the range, I shot it all. How are they going to know? How are they going to know? You went out in the open desert and shot it. How are they going to know? So I just don't see how
California has a version of red flag, so that you could tell them you shot it, but they may use that red flag order to demand to come in and inspect.
Jeez.
I heard. I mean, I'm not sure 100%, but I definitely heard that there was in that law there was a limitation on how much you could buy per month as well.
There's a lot of rumors floating around. I don't know if that's fact or not.
So really what we need to do is just have somebody double check with the state of California website. That'd probably be the best place to find out. So those of you who are watching
Unfortunately,
or
I'm on
listening from
mobile, so
no, I mean not right now, but those of you who are in California who are watching or listening to this, always make sure to check your local laws and just be sure of what's going on. And I would expect that any FFL in the state of California at this point would probably have most of those answers because they're the ones that really have to know this stuff.
Okay,
not necessarily.
Lax Ammo website. I'm looking it up right now. There are no limits on no limits or caliber restrictions on ammo before or after July 1st.
And that's where not all the FFLs have the answer, because right on the DOJ website, second item on the list saying, valid ID, type to use is a valid, that's where you have to have the valid, ID with your current address on it for the background check. One of the ones that on the DOJ website they say you can use is a valid passport. And I have already heard of one, a sale that was denied due to the clerk telling the person that a valid U.S. federal passport was not a qualifying ID to purchase ammo.
Which is illegal because that passport is actually just as valid or more valid than a state-issued driver's license for any photo ID.
You're preaching to the choir on that one.
Oh my gosh!
Wow. All right, so it's not enough that we have dumb laws. It's also we got to watch for people who don't know the real laws.
That's where the concern that I know a lot of people here have is because they're tracking what calibers you're buying and what quantities is they're going the firearms that predated the California DOJ list, which I think started in 2013, 2014, something like that. So that's where, say, the person that is retirement age or close to that picked it up when they were 18, 19 to hunt deer, that up until now have been very much I don't care if they take away assault rifles. Well, their stuff is now going to have a backdoor list of what they are buying ammo for. And what happens when the government starts getting a list like that?
Yeah, bad things. We'll get there. We'll cover that. And Dano's got some good comments out there. Tracking ammo is a total waste, even if the purpose was to see who has ammo. I've bought my son ammo, and before that a gun. It all shows up under my name, even guns I've sold throughout the years. That's one of the things that we're going to get to with some of these other proposed laws, Dano. So sit tight, and we'll cover that. All right, let me mark these off my list since I'm not really going in order here. Okay, so another one that we hear all the time. One of the big ones. People are even people who should be pro-gun. And I'm thinking right now of a lot of celebrities who should be on the conservative side, country musicians, and a big list. I didn't take the time to pull up the list, but it's more than just the Florida Georgia Line guy and Dierks Bentley. It's a lot of people have signed their name to it's kind of like a petition, I guess, that says that they want to call for things like universal background checks. And universal background checks are the way that they're positioned by the people who position them make it sound like, hey, why would you not want this? If you're selling a gun, wouldn't you want to know if the person buying that gun is a criminal and is going to use it for nefarious purposes? Because that's how it's always positioned. I'll start this one off with my thoughts. I've got lots of them. I've done a lot of thinking on it. I've listened to a lot of different people talk about it. One of my favorite people to discuss this, because he explains it so well and so succinctly, and you guys can like him or hate him, I don't care, but it's Colian Noir. And he's got some really good thoughts, and I've heard him say this on multiple different interviews talking about universal background checks. Now, universal background checks, the way that they are typically proposed, would be for any transfer whatsoever of a firearm. So that means that if Travis and I are, we meet up, we go to the range, and I like one of his guns, say it's a handgun in the state of Nebraska, and I decide that, hey, what do you want for that? I'll buy it from you. Now, legally, Travis cannot sell me that gun without going to a dealer, and we have to do a legal transfer in a 4473 on that handgun. If it were a long gun, it's just cash and carry. There's no.
Dude, we don't for handgun. You just have to have a
We don't?
valid. No, you just have to have a valid pistol purchase permit and a Nebraska driver's license or concealed carry permit.
Okay.
Yeah, Nebraska doesn't.
Even for private sales, that's all we need.
Yes. That's all. They have to have at least because I've sold quite a few, and I've always made sure that we follow the laws on that.
I tell you what, kids, I want this to be an educational program.
No, it's all good, man.
I just got educated, so whether or not anybody else learns something, we've already done some good here tonight because I'm learning too. Okay, now with the universal background checks that have been proposed, let's say that we take that same trip to the range, and Travis, you're shooting your Glock 17 that you got, or that new 1911.
Oh yeah,
and you're like, dude, this thing shoots so sweet. Give this a try, and you hand it to me, and I rip off a magazine in that thing. With universal background checks in place, we just committed a felony, both of us.
Because you've taken possession of it.
Because you gave it to me without a background check, and I took it without a background check, and I shot it, and that means that I did take possession of that handgun, and that would be illegal under that. Let's say that we weren't at the range, and somebody stopped by my house, and I handed them the Taurus TX22 to look at without a background check. That would be a felony. I don't know how you even go to the gun store and look at a gun if they can't hand it to you. And it sounds stupid and it sounds ludicrous, but that is the letter of the law that's been proposed. Yes, 9mm says a felony, ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But that's how it would be under the universal background checks that have been proposed. Also, if we have universal background checks, and we don't have a national gun registry, then let's say that a cop rolls into the range and wants to know whose gun I'm shooting. I've got Travis's 1911 in my hand, and I say, it's mine. He can't go back to his cruiser, or the police officer cannot go back to the cruiser and pull up the ownership of that gun right now anyway, and see actually who owns that gun, because we do not have a gun registry. And that's one of the few good things that has happened. That's part of the Firearms Owners Protection Act, or FOPA, which was, 1986 that one happened. I don't remember the dates, but that's part of the Firearm Owners Protection Act. There is no national gun registry, and any gun registry is unconstitutional. Now, with the universal background check law in place, the only way to enforce such a thing is for the cops to be able to see who owns what at any given time. And a registry would become imperative in order to enforce such a law. If we're going to pass universal background checks, we have one of two things. We either have a law that becomes unenforceable, in which case that law also becomes unnecessary, because why have a law that we can't enforce? Or we have to break the Constitution, break FOPA, and put a national background or a national registry in place. So we've already got hurdles. We've got laws that that conflict. So I don't know how universal background checks would actually ever be put in place, but nobody that I've ever talked to and nobody I've ever seen interviewed has actually had a good plan, a good idea for how to enforce such a thing without a registry.
Didn't Swalwell have a pretty good plan on how to deal with gun owners that wouldn't give them up?
You mean Newcomb?
Sarcasm, buddy. Sarcasm.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's a technique. I don't know if it's the preferred method.
Well, see, and this
Don't
is what
nuke me,
happens,
bro.
This is what happens when non-gun owning individuals try to write gun owning laws. They don't get all the complexities that come along with being a firearms owner, you know? And then you run into things like the no allow to share a firearm at the range, you know, clause that pops up, or yeah. Oh man.
So yeah, it's oh man. Oh, go ahead.
I was told it was easier to get a gun than to get a book
From the library.
and I'm still trying that. I mean, if it's one I already own, then it's
You
easier.
have to go to a gun show and use the gun show loophole. And then it is. That's what I heard. It's easier to get a gun at a gun show than it is to get a book from the library.
I tried that, and the idiot told me he couldn't sell me a long gun since I wasn't from a state contiguous to Oklahoma.
If I am not mistaken, it is easier for a 16-year-old to get a gun than to get a library book.
Oh, that's the problem. I'm 48.
You're too old.
I'm too old.
Man. But sorry, bud.
I'm a multiple of 16.
You're 3 16-year-olds. So you should be able to get 3 guns.
I've had worse dates.
Oh man.
Okay. So universal background checks and the registry that would become a necessity in order to enforce them. Thoughts? Good idea. Bad idea. Can we do it? Will it ever happen because of how hard it's going to be to enforce?
This is what I would do if I could propose something to the anti-gunners. Universal background check is something that is optional, or if it has to be done, this is the way you do it. You simply enter the person's name, first, middle, last, their driver's license number, their state ID number, their military ID card number, their passport number, whatever kind of serial number is attached to their legal form of identification. You go into an app, or you call an 800 number, and you simply enter that information and nothing else. And it gives you a proceed or deny. That's it. Mm-hmm. Proceed or deny. You don't tell them how many guns you're selling them, what kind of guns, or you may just go, okay, it says proceed, and the guy goes, all right, I want to buy it for $100 less. No, it's this price or nothing. All right, well, screw you. You could actually use this as a background check. Say maybe if you were just trying to confirm that the person was a U.S. citizen, or if they maybe something nefarious in their background or something like that, for other purposes. And I know somebody go, well, then you might be able to deny them a job or whatever. Then you need to have something in place with this where if you get a deny and you know it's false, you've got to have a U-pin or something like that that you would have if you were dealing with a dealer. The whole thing is, if you take this and you flip it on them and you go to them and go, fine, we'll make universal background checks so bad guys don't get guns. Here's the deal. There's no tracing. That person might be buying 100 guns from me right now, or might be buying 1 gun. And you'll never know what that gun is. And when they go, no, we've got to know the gun. Okay, then what you really want is registration for confiscation. So no deal. You put it back in their face where you're saying, look, we don't think it's unreasonable to keep the bad guys from getting guns from good guys who just want to make a private sale. But there's absolutely no reason to track this sale unless you plan to take that gun at some point down the road. So make it where there's nothing. And when they go, oh, well, I see you sold a gun to John Smith on the 15th. Maybe I sold John Smith 5 guns. I don't have to tell you. I don't have to tell you nothing. When you do that, they get their universal background check, and we get registration taken off the table. And that's how this is that compromise thing that nobody wants to do. When you meet them head on with their own logic and go, all you're trying to do is stop the bad guys from getting guns. And all we're trying to do is stop you from confiscating our guns later. Let's make a deal. And when they go, sorry, no deal, go, fine, no deal. That's that.
Which would raise the question, so in that plan, what would we do for the false negatives? Or
that's up to the buyer. That's up to the buyer to do his due diligence to get a U-pin, because if you go to a dealer and you get a deny or delay because you have a common name or something's wrong, there is something you can do. If you're John Smith, and there's a bunch of John Smith out there that are on the no-fly list or whatever it is, if you have a U-pin, that is your own identification number. So in addition to giving your driver's license number and your full name, you give the U-pin and they go proceed. That's what you would do if you were buying from a gun dealer. And I understand that the gun dealer has guns come in and guns go out. They have to record them in their bound book. There's a lot of reasons why they've got to put what they're selling on the 4473. It's for their inventory and the fact that they have to deal with the ATF. We don't have to deal with the ATF. If they said, nope, you've got to be a licensed gun dealer in order to sell guns. Yeah, but I'm not a business. Okay, we'll make it a private, you can sell so many guns a year privately, and we'll make you an FFL. All right, fine, deal. I can get guns shipped to my house then. Oh, wait, no, we don't want that. Well, yeah, but now I'm a gun dealer, and gun dealers can have guns shipped to them. So what is it? You have to keep flipping this stuff on them and get them to admit what they're really after. And you also have to get them to understand the other sides of these laws that they're proposing, because they're so ignorant to how things really work.
And with that level of ignorance, can we get them to understand?
Who cares?
You
end up taking it off the table because they're going, oh no, that's not what we want. Well, then I guess you don't give it. You don't get, because we're not. This is the whole thing. What we do is we cross our arms and we stamp our foot and we say no further, and we don't get anything back in the process. And they just keep taking and taking. So what you do is you give them something that they want. In return, you get something. Or you give them something they want that doesn't hurt us or doesn't hurt very many of us or really doesn't matter at the end of the day. But in the process, you still get something back. That's the whole compromise thing that nobody wants to do.
I don't know.
Or they're not doing the right way.
Still leaves a bad taste in my mouth to say I'd be okay with any of this. I'm already not okay with the process that I have to go through now.
But see, here's the thing. The 4473 at the FFL, like I said, putting down the gun that's getting sold and all that crap on there is about inventory, because the ATF has to come in and they have to, at any time they can walk into that FFL and go, show us all your guns. And you can put in a bound book that you sold it and whatnot, but you got to have documentation. Because you and I aren't FFLs, we don't have to worry about that sort of thing, and that's the way it should be.
Right.
And if they're worried that somebody's going to become a backdoor underground FFL because they can sell, because these people go, well, I don't want a limit on how many guns I can sell every year. Well, dude, if you're selling more than so many guns a year, unless you're selling all of your guns, you're just purging your entire collection, then you are kind of being a backdoor FFL. And you really should get a license, and you should go through you should become a business and blah, 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 blah. So to some extent, I'm not saying that there should be some ridiculous limit like 2, but does anybody need to sell 100 guns a year? Unless they're selling their entire collection.
What if I want to? What if I own 1,000 guns and I want to sell 100 a year?
Then you're a gun dealer at that point.
Okay.
You're a gun dealer at that point.
But why does that need to be licensed?
Well, I don't know about why it's got to be licensed. I just know if you're a store and you sell guns, you have to have an FFL.
I understand that. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with adding on top of things that I already don't agree with. I don't agree with the universal background check no matter what's listed, because it's just another. The only reason a universal background check is even proposed is to add a level of one more level of inconvenience to the process. It's just like the background check to buy ammo in California. They are hoping that people, even if it only affects 10% of the people in California who buy ammo, that's fewer people who are buying ammo because it's a pain in the butt to go through all that crap.
I have never had an issue with filling out a 4473 or doing the paperwork for a private party transfer of a handgun in this state. I've never had an issue with it. And sometimes it is multiple trips. It is filling out things in triplicate. It is being on hold with the ATF or the FBI, whatever. It's never been that big of an issue. It takes longer to go into a new car dealership and buy a new car and fill out all that paperwork than it does to buy a gun. It's not that big of a deal. If that placates the general population who doesn't want to know the truth about guns, and it doesn't really hurt me at the end of the day, that's fine. When they start charging fees and when they start making you wait 15 days to get your gun or whatever, I've never gone to a gun show or a gun store and walked in and they've said, you got to come back later and get it. I've walked out with the gun. I've been doing this for a while. My private party sales, one time I had to make 3 trips to the guy's house because of the paperwork, and that was on me. But even then, okay, I got to visit my friend 3 times. I don't care. But it's not that big of a deal. These are petty little things that we're arguing over when we really need to get rid of background checks on ammunition, or we need to get rid of magazine restrictions, or we need to get rid of those states that have lists of guns you can buy and guns you can't buy and all that. That's more important than worrying about filling out a 4473. It really is.
Okay. Fact remains, I don't like 4473s. I don't think that we should have to get permission to exercise our rights. I don't think that I don't think it's on me to find out anything about you. If you buy a car from me, I don't have to make sure you have a driver's license. If you buy a house from me, I don't have to make sure you're a legal resident. If you do something bad with that car, if you drive drunk and you hit a family, a van full of kids or a bus full of kids, that's not on me. If you buy a gun from me and then you do something bad with it, that's not on me either.
No, but what if, okay, I know you, so if I sold you a gun, I don't care. I know you. All right, what if I met you at a gun show and I never met you before in my life and I don't know you, but I really want to unload this gun and you really want to buy it and we agree on the price and everything. But I'm still a little bit, I don't know. Why can't I, as a tax-paying citizen, get a free background check on you by simply entering in some information?
We're not going to make that transaction, Squib.
Why?
Because I'm not going to go through with it. Either give me the gun, I'll give you the cash, or no. That's fine. If you don't want to sell it to me, it's a free market. We're a capitalist nation, and you can sell who you want to. But I also have the chance to not buy it from you. I'm going to go buy it from somebody that's going to sell it to me.
Why can't I simply call the same number the gun dealer calls and get a proceed or deny if I want? Not because I have to.
Because you're not going to get the info on me to call it with. That's why.
Well, then you got something to hide. But
I don't. But I don't. That's just the thing. I got nothing to hide. I don't see the need for it. Because, and here's the thing, if I really had something to hide, right now I already wouldn't go to a gun show or go to a gun store. But if I wanted to get a gun, I would be able to find one, I'm sure. Making anything illegal or requiring a license for something, requiring a prescription for something, has never stopped people from buying it illegally. All the laws do is restrict the people who already aren't breaking the laws.
But you realize that by saying that, you're implying that we shouldn't have any laws at all whatsoever.
We should have laws whatsoever. We shouldn't have restrictions on our rights. And we have a right that is spelled out in the Constitution that says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I look at any paperwork, any registry, any need to obtain permission from the king in Washington as a restriction or as an infringement. And I'm not okay with it. And I'm not saying that there's a way to... Okay, I'll go on record. I understand that if we remove all firearms laws, bad people are going to get guns. Yes, that's going to happen. And anybody that thinks that passing these laws is going to stop bad people from getting guns needs to pull their head out of the sand, because that's where they've stuck it.
Bad people already get them even with these laws.
Look at the places that have the toughest laws. I mean, clearly the laws are working because nobody ever gets murdered in California. Nobody's getting murdered in Chicago. Nobody's getting murdered in New York. People are not getting shot there because they can't get guns there. Oh, wait. No, that happens all the time because people are lawbreakers. People do bad things, and anybody who thinks that people are inherently good are also fooling themselves. There's always going to be bad people, and they're always going to break the law, and they're always going to come up with guns. There's no way to take away every gun in the country. There's too many of them. We already don't know where they all are, and we want to keep it that way. Why do I want to keep it that way? Because I know that there's bad people out there with guns, and if they're going to have them, then I want them too, because they're not going to impose their will on me without a fight.
I never said anything about registering them. I never said anything about a registry. I just said if you want to placate the general population of the country that is ignorant, will always be ignorant.
I don't want to placate. I want to educate.
Well, good luck with that.
That's what we're doing here. That's why we do this, because I want to educate. And that's why I'm so vehemently against universal background checks, because we've already got background checks. I had to go through a background check to get the permit that I used to buy firearms in my state. Why do I need to go through another background check? I don't know why.
You had to pay for that, right? By the way,
and I had to pay for that, right?
Yeah,
in order to exercise it.
Yeah, see, I'm for the average citizen should be able to do the same check if they choose, not because they had their arm put behind their back and told you have to do this. I don't like universal background checks, but if, like I said, if I don't know you and I want to sell you a gun and I just like, you know what? Let me see your driver's license. Let me make a quick phone call. And you go, no. Oh, right then and there, that tells me something. Mm-hmm. And now I definitely don't want you to have a gun. Just as much as you don't want to give me your information, I don't want somebody like you to have a gun then, because that tells me you're up to something or you've got something to hide. And nowhere in there is there a I have to. It's my choice, and it shouldn't cost a penny because I pay enough in taxes.
You're right. It shouldn't cost a penny. But here's the thing: is you're right. But I want you to think about this, knowing me as well as you know me, and I know we've never met face to face, but you and I have talked about a lot of things over the years here now. Knowing me the way you know me, if I still refuse to give you my info, do you think that Sandhills is hiding something from you or from the government just because I refuse to give out that info?
That would be if I didn't know you. If I knew you, I wouldn't care. And that's one of the reasons I don't like the idea of making it a requirement. I think it should be an option. If you, the law-abiding, tax-paying citizen, want to just do a quick proceed, deny check, not what's being sold, how much, blah, 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 any of that. Mm-hmm. Just, I want to do a check on John Smith today just to see if John Smith is okay. We're not saying that we're actually going to do a sale, but before we go any further, for my own peace of mind, mm-hmm. And the government should go, here is a free access portal to do that if you want. We're not going to tell you how much money they make or how many times they've been divorced or what their credit score is or why they've got to deny. And it's up to them to get the deny taken off there because it's the same deny they get if they went to an FFL. That's all I'm saying is I think it should be a free option for, it's kind of like the person who doesn't carry with a round in a chamber when they first started carrying because they're afraid it's going to go off. I get so sick of hearing that crap. That's not the only reason some people don't carry with a round in a chamber. But for the same thing, if you're new to guns and you want to sell them and you go to the gun show and maybe it's in a different county or a different area or the person, they're acting a little bit weird. I don't know. Maybe you got some prejudice against them because of the way they're dressed or whatever it is. You should be able to go, well, I really do want to unload this gun and this guy's willing to pay it, but I don't know that I want to sell to a felon.
Okay.
Here's the thing, though, dude.
I guess I don't see that's fine. Don't sell it to them.
When it comes to these laws, the law in Nebraska says that you can sell the handgun to the person if they have a purchase permit or a concealed carry permit, and they're at least 21 years old,
which they can't have unless they can't have that permit unless they're 21.
And they have to be able to own a firearm legally. You can ask them, hey, are you allowed to own a firearm? And if they say yes, and you sell them the gun, there is no liability on your part because you were acting in good faith. That's it. There's no liability back on you if anything happens.
If we're gonna discuss the potential slippery slope that such a law can cause, even if we did a background check where we just checked the person, didn't list the gun or how many or any of that, what keeps the lawmakers or the people on the back end of that check from muddying up the waters and, oh my gosh, our servers are down. Oh, we just don't have the manpower to process all these. It's going to be a couple weeks before we can get back to you. Oh, well, you got a false positive on there. Well, it'll be a while before we can clear it up and see what's actually wrong.
Hey, John, you requested 100 background checks to sell a firearm to somebody?
Yeah.
Really? Why would you do such a thing?
Yeah, exactly.
We got a number on you now?
So I can't see it ending well. There's always going to be a way to pervert even a law that is brought forth in good faith and with good intentions. I don't think anybody, well, okay, some of them do. I think a lot of these lawmakers have good intentions when they bring these laws forth. But what I'm worried about isn't necessarily the intent of the person who proposes the law, as much as I am the potential for it to be perverted down the road. Just like Trump using executive orders to change the laws and reclassify what is and isn't a machine gun. Okay, I'm not nearly as worried about bump stocks as I am about the potential for the next president, President Kamala Harris, using executive order to ban every semi-automatic rifle after the first 100 days she's in office. And then what you're proposing, Squib, again, you have good intentions with your idea, and I'm not questioning your intentions, but I question the people who we leave in charge of this stuff. And if the governor of Michigan right now is pro-gun, and in your state everything works great for a while, cool. What about the next person? What about the next generation?
The potheads voted in an anti-gun governor and anti-gun AG. Thank you, potheads. And here we have the whole, you need to get a pistol purchase permit because there is pistol registry. You need a pistol purchase permit if you're buying from a private seller. If you don't want to go down to the police station and get the permit, which is not a big deal, by the way, if you have a concealed pistol license, you show them that's just as good. You still have to register it, but it's not a big deal. Here's the thing, though. For the people who don't have a concealed pistol license, you get treated like you're not in the club when you go to buy a gun. I was at Bass Pro Shop today buying 6 boxes of ammo because Calaveras can't. And the guy was buying a 1022 next to me, and he in the counter see his concealed pistol license, and I'm going, no. You don't need to see that at all, dude. Just fill out the 4473 on the laptop and let him go with his gun. But, it's gotten to be such a thing where, well, you don't have a concealed carry permit, you're not in the in club kind of, and it's like, whatever. So I understand. I like the expediency of it, but I don't like how you get treated like a second-class citizen if you don't have one. And they're almost making it where you have to have a permit to carry concealed just in order to buy a gun, period.
Well, that sounds like it's just the gun dealers that are they don't like the inconvenience of the person not having the permit. That's why they create that environment of hostility towards people that don't.
Just extra paperwork that they
they don't like that part, even though
they'd rather streamline the sales process. They can sell more guns in a day to those customers, and that's their ideal person. I get that. People in sales do that. It happens. It's not right. It sucks for the people that don't have the permit, and it is a form of discrimination. It's not racism, though.
How about this idea? Let's just go draconian here. How about if you are convicted of a crime with a handgun, and that handgun was obtained illegally, or you were not supposed to have it, you get a mandatory life sentence in prison.
I'd be okay with something like that.
Hey, there's going to be people that'll commit gun crimes because they don't care. They're not sane. They're not whatever. But man, you think about that little hoodlum that's going to go try to knock off the 7-Eleven, he might think twice, You mandatory life? I don't think I'm going to go that route. I mean, now then you might see more knife crimes. You might see more more bat attacks or chainsaw attacks or whatever,
The thing is, people. I'm sorry.
See, Travis, the teenage hoodlums aren't going to think about that. It would be guys like the people here on the panel or the ladies in the chat, in the text chat, that would be thinking about that kind of stuff. The wannabe bangers don't care.
The repeat offenders that go back again and again and again, they almost seem to like prison. They don't care. And when they commit a crime, they don't care how many extra charges are against them. And usually when they have a whole stack of charges, they don't even add up all the sentences together. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how the repeat offenders get treated better by the criminal system than the first-time offenders.
You wouldn't be a repeat offender because you'd be in prison for the rest of your life.
There'd be no chance for
you wouldn't get out, or make it a mandatory death penalty.
Well, especially if you, I think if you kill somebody, there should be a well, if it's first-degree murder.
Well, hey, and that would get rid of the illegally obtained gun crime, wouldn't it?
It would go a long ways. Just different penalties for the laws that we have. Yeah.
Well, that's unless states like California that don't have death penalty.
Well, now see, with that, you've got to be real careful, Travis. With that, you got to be careful, Travis, because, all right, you commit a crime with a gun, automatic death penalty. Somebody kicks in the door to your apartment, and they've got a gun, and you shoot them dead, and the prosecutor says you committed murder. You just got
mine was for an illegally obtained firearm, not for killing
somebody.
I'm
sorry.
You got it.
Because here's the thing.
I know. I'm just saying. Let's look at the other extreme end of it. Let's discourage that kind of behavior. Then,
Well, the kind of common sense laws that need to be in place are the kind of common sense laws that defend the law-abiding citizen when they have to use deadly force. Those are the laws that really need to be in place. Let's see. Bad guy breaks into house, not his, in the middle of the night while family is sleeping. Bad guy has rap sheet 10 pages long. Homeowner has no rap sheet, has legally obtained gun, and defends home. Cop should be patting him on the back, handing him his gun, saying, "Thank you, have a good night, sir. Here's the number of a good service to clean the blood off your carpet, and thank you, good citizen." Instead, they get slammed to the ground, tased, pepper sprayed, drug into prison, sleep deprivation, crapping in one of them weird toilets in front of 15 hardened felons, and they got their lawyer saying, "We don't know what we can do for you," and they end up losing their job and everything else. Meanwhile, all they did was defend their family. It's kind of obvious. Bad guy, rap sheet. Good guy, no rap sheet. What's the problem here? When are those laws going to come into play where they can't just kick your door in, tase you, and drag you down to the station in cuffs because you defended your family? When are those laws going to come into play? That's more important to me.
Okay, so
I agree, man.
All right, let's move on here. We've got a couple other laws to talk about. These are common sense. This has happened in a lot of states already, and it seems to be kind of an arbitrary number because every state seems to be a little bit different. Magazine capacity limits, because your gun is safer if it doesn't hold more than 15 rounds, or more than 10 rounds, or more than 7 rounds.
Absolutely pointless because you can always carry more mags.
Well,
it's a good compromise because you still get the mags. I mean, you don't need 15 rounds in one of those.
Apparently not.
I mean, you still get the magazines, and you can go out and get more magazines. I mean, so it's a good compromise, right?
Luckily, my state does not have magazine capacity limits.
It's only a compromise if you trade it for something. So what did you get back?
The same thing we got back on every other air quote compromise.
A kick in the pants.
If you got nothing back, it was never a compromise.
But our rights are being compromised.
You got to keep magazines. That's what you got back.
For now, we still get to keep the semi-auto mechanisms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get to keep magazines. So it was a good compromise, right? I mean,
this is true.
The thing is,
I mean, otherwise they were going to come and take all the magazines, and you weren't going to have magazines.
Here's what happened, though. At one point, the people who make all the laws and the people with all the money who had all the power wanted to disarm all of the other people who weren't in their rich, good old boys club. But they couldn't do that legally, constitutionally. And so they took away a few things like, short barrel rifles and full auto and things like that. They didn't completely take them away. They just made it too expensive to afford for most people. And then over the years, they've taken a few other things away that we didn't need. Every generation, we lose a few more things. We're always one generation away from complete loss of our rights. And I believe it was Reagan that said that, but what he meant by that was you don't miss what you never had. The people who are now coming of age and are able to vote never knew what it was like to be able to walk into a coast-to-coast hardware store and walk out with an M16 Select Fire. People back in the early 80s could do such a thing, but you can't do it now, and there's an entire generation of voters who don't miss that because they never knew what it was like.
No, it was in the early 80s. It was still NFA.
It was.
You didn't just walk in and walk out.
But they were sold. I remember hearing the stories.
You can buy one today.
If you can find one.
Yeah, online. Yes, you can.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yes. The only difference is they're more expensive today. That's it.
They were sold because they were cheap in the hardware stores or in the gun stores. Because you could buy current manufacturer in the early 80s and it was attainable.
You had to get a tax stamp and all that. Yeah.
Right. I'm aware. I get it. There's an entire generation of people who don't know what it's like to buy an M16 for the same money as an AR-15. There's an entire, lots of generations now who don't know what it's like to walk into a gun store and walk out with a full auto Thompson because you haven't been able to do that since 1933. I don't miss it because I never had it, but it sure would be cool.
So
yeah, I kind of wish I could
for it then.
What was that, Travis?
So why would I fight for it if I don't know what it was like? You know,
well, that's just it.
I
There's going to be an entire population of people, entire generation of people who don't miss bump stocks. We've already got a huge percentage of the population today that didn't care about losing bump stocks because they never had one and they thought they were dumb and they didn't understand the principle. What I'm saying is every time we give something up, we never get anything back. We're suffering the death of 1,000 paper cuts and it needs to end. You can only chip away for so long before pretty soon there's nothing left to chip. But at that point, if it's, and again, I say this, I've said this before, the Grand Canyon wasn't cut overnight. The Colorado River did not form the Grand Canyon in the space of 10 years' time or in one generation's time. It took thousands of years for the river to cut that Grand Canyon the way it has. But it happens so slowly and so gradually that anybody who lived near the Grand Canyon doesn't realize how much deeper it gets every year because it's so gradual. But at the end of 1,000 years, gosh, this thing's gotten deeper. Now it's a mile deep. Okay? That's kind of how our gun rights are getting. They're slowly and piece by piece being eroded away. But it's at such a slow rate that sometimes we don't even realize how much we've lost until we stop and look back and realize what we don't have anymore, or what we don't have that our grandparents had, or that our great-grandparents had. And so
until it hits critical mass.
Until it hits critical mass and it hits the fan, and then we all say, oh, now what do? We've got to do something. We're all going to rise up or get, nukes dropped on us by Swalwell or whatever's going to happen. I don't know. But my point is, at any point when we have an infringement upon our rights, it leads to more. It always leads to more. It's never enough. We took away full auto. It's not enough. Now we want to take away semi-auto. That won't be enough when they figure out how fast you can fire off a lever action. That won't be enough when they realize how fast you can reload a revolver. That won't be enough. And if they take us back to the days that we only have muzzle-loading muskets, that won't be enough because they're going to realize that we will still find a way to improve on those and make them efficient. And they'll take those too. And as long as there's any fight left in us, they will keep trying to take that fight out and to beat it down and to chip away at it and to crush it until we're a population who does what we're told when we're told and does it how we're told to do it. And as an American, I think most of us have an inherent aversion to being told what to do or how to do it or when to do it, because we're a nation that was based on don't tell me what to do. We're going to do things our own way.
Unfortunately, that mentality is, being bred right out of our population.
And it doesn't take that long. Now, Pickle's probably a little young to remember this, but what was California like in the 80s and early 90s versus what is California like now?
I was born in '90, so I have no idea.
Well, I've talked to other people that have lived out west in California. It was a whole different kind of attitude. Hell, even outside of, a lot of your counties, there's still a very strong pro-2A population, but they're still being restricted. So, I mean, it's not like everybody in California is opposed to firearms or in favor of regulation. It's not like that. There's
not everybody in California wants to live off the government, and not everybody in California wants, the government to do everything for them
but
either.
Everybody in California is restricted to featureless rifles and 10-round magazines, and now they have ammo checks.
And speaking of critical mass,
and
that's
all that came
example.
along in a generation.
That's like I said. That's a good example of the critical mass, because that's where part of why California didn't have some of that stuff back in the, I don't know, pre mid '80s or Reagan era or whenever you want to look back at, was because the state hadn't reached a critical point of its of its mentality, where the state senate was still an equal representation between all the counties. So the pro 2A rural kept a check, so we had the check and balance. But after the proposition process to change them both to by population, that tipped the balance on the critical mass and has allowed the legislature to be dominated by the large cities, which historically have been less 2A friendly. And things have moved much faster since.
Absolutely. And now, I mean, once something's taken away, it's 1,000 times harder to get it back than to keep it in the first place. And that's my big fear is what happens when we lose so many of these rights? What happens when my Second Amendment rights are so far gone that I can't defend my First Amendment rights? That I can't defend my Fourth Amendment rights, my Fifth Amendment rights? What happens then? And how do I fight that if I don't have the option of armed resistance? And it's not the fact that I want to shoot somebody, because nothing could be further from the truth. But the potential that somebody storming my house may take a bullet, and the fear or the just knowing that might be the case, that's what keeps our government in check. And that's why we have the right to keep and bear arms. And that's why the founding fathers did not want those rights to be infringed, because they knew that the only way to keep the government in check is if the people can fight back. They had just done it. They knew that it could be done, and they knew what an armed population could be capable of. And they wanted that for their descendants. They wanted that for generations to come. They wanted to make sure that America would never, ever again be ruled by a crown. But we're getting there. And it scares me to death the way that I hear some of these people talk. And again, I'm not worried about the first generation of these, okay? I'm not worried about Bernie getting into office and being socialist. What I'm worried about is 2-3 presidents later down the road of socialism, what happens when somebody wants to crown himself king? And we don't have a way to stop it. And the reason we don't have a way to stop it is because we've gotten so used to giving things up that when they came and said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of you, we believed them. They've told us this time and again. They've told us, don't worry, nothing bad's going to happen. We only want to take this. We're not going to take any more. Then they came back and said, don't worry, nothing bad's going to happen. We only want this. We're not going to take any more. And every time we've freaking believed them, to where we can't walk into a store and buy anything that we want anymore because somebody out there might do something bad with it. That's not how this country works. That's not how freedom works. We take the chance that something bad's going to happen. That's what freedom means. So I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with any infringements. I'm not okay with any of these laws, but I digress. We're running out of time. So magazine capacity limits, I think we can all just kind of agree that those of us who have shot an automatic on the range understand how easy it is to reload. That's why California can't have AR pattern rifles that you can just drop the mag out and reload it. But yet it's weird because I think people still get shot there. Not with ARs. We all know that that's actually not what the weapon of choice is for public shooters, but
That's where it was. The 10-round mag law was already in place, and I think the maglock law as well. When the San Bernardino, I believe, shooter that had a non-locked rifle with 30-round magazines, because after deciding to kill a bunch of people, it didn't care about the rest of the laws.
It's weird. It's weird how even if you had been there with a California compliant rifle, you would have been outgunned by somebody who just simply broke the law.
We should ban evil.
We should ban murder. That's what we should do. Just Daniel, you're right. No one's ever actually said they're not going to ask for more because it's not true. They keep asking for more, but they keep telling us no one's going to come take away all your guns, and yet they keep taking more and more of our guns. And I really, you guys can say what you want. You can think what you want. I don't want you to think what I think just because I think it. But I get really tired of people peeing on my head and telling me it's raining because I don't like that. I don't like being told something when I know it's not true. I don't like being told anything from the government because, again, I'm an American. I fancy myself a patriot, and I have an inherent distrust of government because I'm an American patriot.
Sure.
All right. So, anyway, sorry, guys. I get a little worked up sometimes.
It's all right, man. It's all right.
Okay,
It
so
was worth it.
last but
that
not
wasn't
least,
that wasn't that worked up. I think we might have to submit Squib's comments earlier to the closers. Wound up.
Summer, you know what?
Competition. For the week.
and for the record, obnoxious. I don't know why you didn't already know I was fancy. I didn't know you didn't know. I could have told you.
I didn't know.
I could have told you.
I was thrown off by the fact that I can only see your floating head and hat.
And my hat and my earphones.
Yes.
That's okay though. Yeah, I'm fancy. I drink my Mountain Dew with my pinky out.
Ooh, you are fancy.
Sophisticated redneck.
Yes. Eat your heart out, Bloke. We should have had Bloke in here. I need to get your email address added to the list, Bloke. I'm sorry. I see you out there. Bloke's holding it down in the chat, along with a lot of other people. And I've not been able to keep up very well with the chat because I've been too busy yelling. So that's all right,
man. Hey,
okay, before we go,
points, dude. Solid points, man.
Before we go, let's cover the Disarm Women Act. I know that's not what it's actually called. It's actually called the Violence Against Women Act, and this is something that we keep renewing. I don't remember. It's every 3 or 4 years this comes up, I think, and it has to be reenacted. But they call it the Violence Against Women Act, and one of the things that's happening, especially in the current iteration, there's a red flag law built in there. And yeah, you can show that. The way that this works, and the reason why so many people call it the Disarm Women Act, is because there have been countless cases of people, even without a red flag law or an extreme risk protection order, just a regular protection order, right? Where somebody has a protection order against an abusive ex, an abusive boyfriend, whatever it is, husband. And because of even current laws that are in place, background check laws, mandatory waiting periods, things like that, false, whatever you want to call it, a false negative or a false positive on a background check that's a delay. The woman's not able to buy a gun, and then because she doesn't have a firearm and doesn't have access to a firearm, then the person against whom she has the restraining order comes into the house, attacks her, and she's either savagely beaten or killed or murdered. We have a lot of cases like that on file, and it's tragic, and it's horrible, and it's heartbreaking. Under a combination of these laws, the red flag laws, the way that, of course, that they've been proposed, and again in this act, that would mean that a former dating partner or an ex or anybody like that could actually be preemptive here and say that, hey, you know, things got heated. She attacked me, and I think she's a danger. I'm worried about her. I just don't know if she's stable. We need to take the guns out of her house. And maybe all along she's not the one who is the instigator. But regardless of that, now we've got somebody who is potentially a lot bigger than her, knows that she can't have a firearm legally, can go into the house, do whatever. Okay, this is bad. Let's pair that with the universal background check. The way that they've been proposed, let's say that it's my neighbor and she's worried. She comes over to the house and says, I'm scared. Now, right now, I could lend her a firearm. But with that universal background check law in place, I wouldn't be able to just send her home with the firearm. We'd have to go down to the gun store and get that transferred. Well, it's 11 o'clock at night. We have to wait till tomorrow. I don't want her staying at my house. That's awkward. So she goes home, no firearm, because I couldn't legally lend her one. I'm not going to stay at her house because, again, that's not proper. Something happens. He breaks in overnight. You know, I'm not saying it will happen, but the potential is there, and it has happened. And so really what happens here is too many times with these red flag laws, you know, the suspect or the perpetrator that everybody visualizes is, you know, a large strapping man who can come in and, you know, break things and hurt people. And, you know, he's mean, he's violent, and we don't want him having a gun. Nobody thinks about the 5'1", you know, 102 pound wife or fiance who has not got the same options to defend herself. But under these laws, it is potential for her to be disarmed. And I just don't know that I like this Violence Against Women Act, the way that it's drawn up. Now, that being said, the people who have to vote on these laws in the House and in the Senate are kind of between a rock and a hard place, because if you vote for this, then you're voting to put a national red flag law in place, among other things. If you don't vote for this, you just voted against the Violence Against Women Act. You did not vote to keep women safe. How could you, you monster? So the way it's drawn up,
I've been called worse.
well, they're all called Congress people or senators, so that is sometimes worse. But the point is that it's just a lot of very tricky, I'd call it chess play, I guess, or whatever, or dirty pool. But you know, the people who don't want this law the way it's written, if they oppose it, nobody ever reports on the fact that they opposed it as written, just that they opposed it, just that they don't want women to be safe, just that they'd rather have their guns than have women be safe. Of course, if we pass it, then we've got all this stuff that can go wrong. We've got all the potential for red flag laws to be abused. And
how about we rewrite it rather than disarming women? We do a national ladies' day at the range, and teaching them how. So that's for at least for those who voluntarily go. Don't make it mandatory.
Well, Right, and we wouldn't necessarily have to do a ladies' day at the range because that isn't inclusive. So if we do it nationally, we have to just do a day at the range to anybody. Out there in the chat, Bloke's saying depends on where you live. In Florida, you could buy the gun and sell it to her without having to register the sale. Today, yes, but if we had the red flag laws and the universal background checks in place, that would be a felony. What I'm saying is there's a potential for this to go very bad very quickly. And if we stack some of these, what are being called common sense laws on top of each other, and most of them have been proposed all in one big bill by Feinstein, Pelosi, and a lot of other people, they've got these ready to go. They put them all together in one big act. And all of a sudden, bad things can happen.
This is an old political trick, though. They've been doing it for years with pork barrel spending and different kinds of debt spending and all that, where they come up with the beautify the National Parks Act. And then when somebody votes against it, look, they wanted to kill polar bears. They wanted to kill the moose and mess up Old Faithful. But they don't want to tell you that there was, a couple $100 billion worth of shady spending going on.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're right. It's always been the case, and that's always been the way that certain groups have gotten things passed. Is, well, if you want my support for your bill, then it has to have this rider that I need to get passed. So, and make no mistake, when you go to Congress, whether or not somebody goes to Congress incorruptible, the only way that you can get things done is to make deals. If you want people to support your bill and vote for it, then you have to pledge support at a later date, and it may be an unspecified support at the time. It's kind of like, a trade in the sports world for a future upcoming draft pick. You'll get that next, that second round draft pick in 2022. You don't know yet who's going to be available to pick. Maybe that won't be as good of a draft crop to pick from, but you take that chance, right? Down the road, you might have to vote for a bill for this other congressperson because they're going to call that marker in. And if you don't vote for it, then you get branded as somebody that Welshes on a bet or Welshes on a deal.
I'm glad
you'll never get support again.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad you explained it the way you did, because there are a lot of people in our community that are naive to the way things really work. And I understand that people want things to be a certain way because that's the way that they were raised, and they were told everything's good and honest and clean, and it's not. And I think you made a really good analogy there of the way it really works. Whether we like it or not, that's just the way it really works.
Yeah, but we've had this discussion before, and just because that's the way it is doesn't mean that's the way it has to be. Especially if we're as aware of this corruption as we are. The problem is we're aware of it and we don't really care. That's why we don't do anything about it.
I think Squib was saying is we're all raised basically on, the old Schoolhouse Rock and not, reality.
No, but that's...
And you're not, even if you fired everybody in government today and replaced them with honest people tomorrow, in no time they'd go right back to doing what the people do.
Then you fire them again. You do not, if you walk by the bully's house and he punches you in the face, you don't just say, well, he punches me in the face every day, so let me go get my lick in the eye before I go to school. No, you do something about that. You do not have to accept the corruption. That is not the way it has to be. Just because that's the way it is doesn't mean that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you. The fact of the matter is that is the way it is. It doesn't have to be that way, but the only way it changes is if more people understand how it is. Because until we can fix the problem, or before we can fix the problem, we have to first identify the problem, and more people need to understand, which means more people need to care, and that's the biggest problem I see. And I'm not just talking about Second Amendment issues. The biggest problem I see when I talk to people, or I'm in sales, I'm in retail sales, so an opinion is not something that I actually have the luxury of at work. Not if I want to do my job well or keep my job. So I generally keep my mouth shut for the most part when I'm at work, or I do my best to bite my tongue. But I do hear people talk quite a bit, along with things that I hear online and things like that. The biggest hurdle that I see that we're going to have to overcome as a nation is apathy. Too many people don't know how it works. They don't care how it works. They don't want to know how it works. They just want to go, watch LeBron win a title out in LA or wherever he is now. And they want to, they want to have a Whataburger in Chicago, and that's important, but they don't care how laws are made. They don't care who's actually in the White House. They don't care what guns we have. They don't care if you can have a bump stock or a suppressor or full auto or any of that. It doesn't affect their daily life.
Well, apathy and, voting one out and, bringing in another batch. I don't know how many times you could do that, but that's where I don't know if that would really solve it, unless, because, to them, I don't know how many of them would see that as a serious enough consequence. That's where, unfortunately, to elevate the consequence to a point at which they would care, I think would be crossing a line, that I don't know if any of us on here would really be willing to cross. But, so that's worth a try there, David. But it would be interesting to see how well it works.
Yeah, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and see if Bloke will fly back to England with me, and maybe we can go bow at the throne, because it was always like that. Why change it? How far do you want to go back? Hey, we can have the Romans tell us what to do and beat us over the back, because it's always been like that. So, why not?
Well, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If in the general election, you vote how you need to. In the primary elections, if you're not voting to throw the person that's in the incumbent out of office, you're voting wrong.
Not
Because
necessarily.
That's where we're at.
Not necessarily, though. What if the person not every incumbent is bad? Not in every level of the country, not in every level of government. I'm not. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens with the GOP within the next year. I'm not even going to go out as far as to say that the incumbent in the White House is bad. There's a lot of things I don't like, but I would much rather the known quantity than the whatever 34 loose cannons that I've seen so far coming from the other side.
Well, that's why I say when you get to the general election, you vote how you have to. But we're at the point where we need to scare the incumbents. And there's two options to do that.
In the primaries if there's any Republican candidates I like better. But president's not a good example because we have term limits. So even if we have an incumbent who wins an election, that can only happen once. Whereas in Congress, we don't have term limits. And so the incumbents sometimes need to be unsettled. The apple cart does need to be upset sometimes. Yes, I agree with that. All right. So we've kind of gone through most of what I have talked about. We're not going to get into the banning of quote unquote assault weapons and what makes an assault weapon and what makes a straight pull shotgun, a machine gun, any of that. That was a cool video, Travis. I'm glad you made that.
Man, it looks so scary. I'm terrified still.
Oh man, I almost peed a little bit just looking at that picture of that gun because it looked like it was a machine gun.
Tell you what.
Even though I know that you can only fire at one time, and if you pull the trigger again, nothing happens because you have to manually cycle the action. But it looked like a machine gun, and I'm still shaking just a little bit. I'm still triggered.
Well, if it looks like a machine gun and smells like a machine gun, we'll just label it as a machine gun.
Well, it's probably going to smell like ram oil or ballistol or something, whether it's a machine gun or not. So that makes sense.
Oh.
My pump action smells like a machine gun because I use the same kind of cleaner and lube on them. Okay, so I've already said my solution for common sense gun laws would be to have none. I understand that means that bad people can get their hands on guns, but bad people already get their hands on guns. So I would just as soon have everything available to me that is available to them without living in fear that I have to go to jail just for defending myself. As far as feasible laws, I would honestly, I don't look for it to happen, not with current administrations in place across the country and state to state. But I would love to see gun-free zones get banned, because I cannot think of a situation where disarming me makes anybody safer. And I can only speak for myself. I know that some people obviously won't agree with that. I get that. If there's going to be a gun-free zone, then I think that there should be TSA level security to get into it. I really do, because if I have to disarm, then I want everybody to go through the pat down and the X-ray and the metal detector, and not as far as a cavity search, but I want to know that everybody else has gone through the same, the same stringent security, vetting.
But TSA is such security theater. It's so ridiculous.
That's true. That's true. And some people still manage to sneak things onto airplanes. So again, it's still a false sense of security. And that's why I don't like gun-free zones at all. I don't understand why it is that the bank is safer with me having to leave my gun in my vehicle to go into the bank than a Hy-Vee grocery store. Why am I more dangerous in the bank than I am in Hy-Vee? Because that's what the state or the nation is telling me. Why is it that when my father-in-law was in the hospital last week, it was dangerous for me to wear my concealed handgun in the hospital, but it wasn't dangerous for me to wear it in the gas station next door? Why is it okay for me to take it into Walmart and I don't have to disarm, but if I go just down the street to where there's a church, I can't take that in there unless I'm actually a security guard for the church? Now, I know some states don't have all these same laws, but I don't get it. Why is it dangerous for me to carry a handgun in a bar if I'm not drinking? And if I'm carrying, I'm not drinking, because my state has a zero tolerance.
If
and
you
I'm
can
okay.
carry your handgun in Walmart, why can't you carry it in a school?
Why can't I carry it in a school? Why was it more dangerous for me to have my handgun at the Metallica concert than for me to have my handgun when I was at the hotel next door? I don't understand. There were people both places. I had no desire to shoot anybody at either place. And everybody at that concert would have been just as safe, potentially safer, if the concealed handgun carriers had been able to carry their concealed handguns in there. Now, go ahead.
But I say it makes me feel better if you don't have it on you.
Right.
Oh,
I just, the number one killer of people in public places is disarmament. And nobody's going to change my mind on that.
But that sign right there said no guns allowed.
That's yeah. I know. I worked all weekend at a fairgrounds that has that sign at the gate when you go in, and then posted inside every building. Like, you have to get in the building to see it, but it's just a reminder at that point because it's posted at the gate. I had to disarm just to go to work, and couldn't have my gun with me when I was at the county fair. There was no security there, just a sign. So had there been an active shooter, there's nothing I could have done about it, but hope I live through it. But had somebody decided to carry a gun in there, and maybe it happened, I have no idea, because nothing bad happened, but the potential was there because there was no security getting into the fair. And it's just one of those things where I don't see a logical and I don't see a practical application for a gun-free zone, because anybody, unless there is actual metal detector and pat down security, Anybody who wants to break that law can just walk in and do it. And schools around here don't have the metal detectors and the police or the armed security doing the pat downs. When's the last time we had a school shooting in an inner city school? The schools that have that security, the schools that the students are used to metal detectors. Now, I'm not talking about outside on the street, right outside the school, but in the school. When's the last time somebody took a gun in there and shot somebody up? It doesn't happen. And everybody says, well, we don't want to have our children feel like they're in prison. Well, do you want your children safe or do you want your children free?
They're just going to tell you that that's because mass shooters are white.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
There's no black mass shooters?
Nope.
Oh, that's what it is.
That's it exactly.
Okay, well.
Laws are for law-abiding citizens.
You cannot legislate crime. There's no law that affects people who are willing to break the law. Anybody who's raised children, I've said this before, anybody who's raised children, especially more than one child, knows that when you've got a rebellious teenager who repeatedly comes home late, breaks curfew, and if the only thing you're going to do is change the curfew, if Junior can't make it home by midnight and you say, all right, well, now you got to be home by 11. Junior shows up at 12:30. Okay, now you got to be home by 10. Junior shows up at 1 o'clock. All right, you got to be home by 9 o'clock. Okay, so that doesn't work. Now let's say that you've got 4 kids that are all teenagers. One of them comes in at 12:30 when they were all supposed to be home by midnight. All right, all of you have to be home now by 10 o'clock. How is that fair? Why are you punishing the people who haven't done anything wrong? Why are we taking privileges away? Privileges that, or rights, either way, but why are we taking away the privileges that are derived from a right from people who haven't done anything wrong? Because it's only the people who haven't done anything wrong who are affected by laws. And the only common sense is to figure that out, in my opinion. So, that being said, we're going to give everybody a chance to throw out their opinions, any closing thoughts, and then any other shameless plugs. Because I'm kind of getting to the point now where I think it's time to call it a night before I go off on another rant. So let's go back the other direction. We'll start with Calaveras. Anything you want to wind down with or wrap up with, and any other plugs you want to make before we go? Calaveras?
Is he still there?
I don't know. He was here a minute ago.
It's supposed to, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll come back. Gizzard, we'll go to you.
Just to make a statement, the only people you can disarm with the law are the ones who were legally armed in the first place. That being said, GizzardGary.com, Foul Territory, Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. Early Bird Chat, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central. Thanks for the invite, and remember, give them the bird.
Absolutely give him the bird. All right. We will go over to Kingpin. Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. And everybody check out Rick's Life as I See It tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Shooting with Disabilities chats.
Absolutely check that out. Those are always good too. Rick's cool. Okay. Obnoxious. Anything you want to throw out there?
The views and opinions expressed by Calaveras 32 Special are the views and opinions of Calaveras 32 Special and only Calaveras 32 Special, and do not reflect the views and opinions of Sandhills Shooter, Gizzard Gary, David Kingpin Bowling, Sandhills Shooter, Squib Load, or Travis P11, or especially Obnoxious One.
All right.
And check out my channel.
Oh,
I do stuff and things, and the views expressed by Obnoxious One on his channel are the views and opinions of Obnoxious One and all of you who don't care for him, because I don't care.
All right. Out in the chat, Calaveras said he accidentally closed out of the window and now Hangouts won't let him back in. And I know if I kick him out, he can't get back in. So that's all right. Calaveras, if you want to type anything, go ahead and throw it out there in the chat there on YouTube. I will read that out if you want me to. We will move over to Squibload. Thanks for joining us, Squib. I know that sometimes you and I see things differently. Sometimes I think that you and I are saying the same things in a different way sometimes. But I value the fact that you don't hold back. I like it when you and I actually get to talk about some of this stuff, whether it's on the air or off. Thanks for being here. Anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. Thanks for being here. And then last but not least, Travis P11, the king of the Travi.
Hey, just make sure you guys subscribe to everybody here on the panel. They'll have great content. Make sure you guys support gunchannels.com, guntube.org. Appreciate the invite. Check out my channel, Travis P11, and keep calm and carry on.
Keep calm and carry on. And Calaveras, thanks us for the invite. Check him out, Calaveras 32 Special. That's Calaveras32spcl.com. And he also says that Orange Man is bad, and that by that he meant obnoxious one. So,
and again, the views and opinions expressed by Calaveras 32 Special are the views and opinions of Calaveras 32 Special only, and do not reflect the views of Sandhills Shooter or anyone on the panel.
Okay, out there on the Gun Channel side, we had David out there, Snob's wife out there, JD out there, the pants. And that might have been it. I didn't see a whole lot of chatting going on other than some hellos and some goodbyes. And Snob's wife was not Porky Piggin tonight, which is for the best, I'm sure. And I know I'm not going to say hi to everybody that was out in the YouTube land, but those of you who are still here, I can see you making comments. So thank you out there in the chat. To Gizzard for holding it down, doing double duty. Dangerous Freedom, Vash Matrix, Clint Taurus, Obnoxious One, Seven Wonders, Philo, Calaveras, Kingpin, Kinky Sphincter, Gamer Guy hanging out all. It's a good thing it's not a school night, Gamer Guy. He's still a teenager. I've actually got Gamer Guy's a friend of mine, and he's what are you now, 15? Right around 15 years old, give or take a year. And he went to the range with us over 4th of July. I've got some footage of him shooting the Taurus, shooting the PPQ. I got some really cool. I was able to try out the slow-mo feature on my camera on my phone while he was shooting the PPQ. So that was kind of cool. So once I get a chance to actually do some editing, I will put some of those up. He was cool enough to record some of the footage. If you see me on Facebook or Twitter, you've maybe seen the video where I was using that red dot sight that I got in to test, the Filand red dot sight, and I got that dialed in well enough that I could shoot shotgun shells off a board at 25 yards. So that was kind of cool, and I got some of that footage, a sneak preview of that up on Facebook and Twitter right now. So Gamer Guy is out there in the chat with us tonight. Who else do we have? Who haven't I said? Seven Wonders. Patriot in the Dark was out there. 9mm was out there. Vandalistica Vlogs. I remember seeing Vash Matrix. Bloke's 2 Cent. I know I'm saying some of these names again. MM53. I don't think I've seen that name before. So thanks for being here. I saw Keith Gregory out there. Trying to just roll through and see who I'm missing. And if I miss you, I'm sorry. I don't mean to. Seven Wonders out there. Midnight. Blitz was out there. Who else do I have? There's a bunch of chat that I didn't even get to see because it kind of hung up on me. Then it jumped. Blue Steel 44. Everybody who joined us tonight. Roll Call was out there for a while. Thanks for joining us. Surviving Gamer, which I don't know that I've seen you before either, although maybe I have, and it's just not been a lot. I think I saw a comment earlier, Surviving Gamer, that made me think maybe you're a Nebraskan. So if that's the case, that's awesome. Gizzard Gary was out there trying to get hooked up with the millionaire forensic scientist. That was cool. Good luck to you, bud. Hillclimb, Ohio JB was out there. So I saw a few people. My lovely wife is still in the chat. Awesome. I didn't know if you were still with us or not, hon. So Like I said, she's not feeling well. She had a minor procedure done tonight or this afternoon. Since the cancer's in remission, the chest port was no longer needed, so that got taken out today and a couple stitches put in. So she's resting. She's probably hurting at this point because they didn't give her anything for pain. Once the lidocaine wore off, it's pretty much just some Tylenol is all she's going to get now. So give her some love out there in the chat and let her know that you guys are thinking about her. If you're the type that prays, do that. So Surviving Gamer, Nebraska, where are you? You got to tell us. At least if you don't want us to know the town, because some towns are small enough that that still can identify you. So at least give us the county.
Or just the county number, and then you and I can decide.
Or just the county number, because I don't know how many states do that, but I can only think of 3. Because I think South Dakota does it, and Wyoming does it, and Nebraska does it, and I don't know any other states that do that anymore. We have 93 counties, and on our license plates, all but 2 of the counties have a number. The first number in the license plate before the dash is the county that the car's licensed in. Lincoln County. So that's out in the North Platte area. That's a big county. So it could be a lot of different places out there. That's just one county west of where Travis's house is.
Yep.
Well, one of your homes in one of those area codes.
Yes. I've got homes in different area codes.
That's so ludicrous.
Yep. It absolutely is ludicrous.
See what I did there? All right. Okay, so that being the case, I do want to show off the new patch I got. Nothing special. It came from eBay. I can't even tell you the seller. But speaking of Nebraska, check out that cool flag patch, Nebraska state flag. I've got a black and white one, and I've got a tan and black one, but this one is the actual state flag colors. So I wanted to show that off because I haven't been able to do that since we missed excuse me, since we missed the last broadcast because of the family stuff and my father-in-law being in the hospital. He's doing okay now. My wife's doing okay now. There we go. So thanks everybody for, I just realized maybe Surviving Gamer's not in Lincoln County. Maybe he's in Lincoln.
Oh.
Or she. Maybe that human being could be either place. That's okay. Join us next week. We'll plan on being same bat channel, same bat time for another 2A Tuesday. I think next week we're going to talk about a few of the things that maybe isn't the best way to do things, but they're better than nothing. Like the carry-in without a round in the chamber on your automatic. Maybe not the best, but if it's still better than not carrying at all. Off-body carry, things like that. Carrying a 22 instead of a 380 or a 9 or a 40 or 45, whatever it is. So we're going to discuss all that and more next week. And then if you're still watching this, I want to invite everybody that I can. I want to build a cool panel for the last Tuesday of the month. We're going to do this a little bit different, something new, and I want to try it. I want to get a panel of grumpy old men. We're going to open it up to both genders. We're going to say grumpy old men and women, but I want to have kind of an ask Annie or a Dear Abby type of advice giving.
So you're going to have
chat.
a Dear Krabby.
Dear Krabby. That's exactly what we're going to call it. Thank you.
Well, I'm the oldest one on the panel.
So Dear Krabby, where you can ask questions out in the chat, and we will give you advice from a panel of sage, albeit somewhat crotchety, experienced men and women. Because I don't care. I don't care who you are, but here's what we're gonna do. Because by that chat, I'm gonna be officially over the hill. So if you're under 40, you can't be on that panel. It's gonna be a 40 and older.
Yes.
Officially old people.
So we're going to have a panel without Pickle?
Wait a second. When did 40 become over the
He's
hill?
got to sit this one out. He's like 16 or 17, isn't he?
40's always been over the hill.
Yeah,
I
that's the halfway.
I-
That's more than halfway.
I didn't know you didn't
life
know.
expectancy, so.
Yeah, I thought over the hill was like 50 or something.
No,
Well, people-
it's no.
people have told me
50 is the new 40, but yeah.
50 is the new 40, yeah, and orange
Yeah.
is the new black. But
Yeah.
both genders, Vandal, just both of them. Only male and female. We're not going to have anything else because I don't know anybody that falls into one of those other 1,456,196 genders. So anyway, if you or someone you know can give life advice, and I don't know what kind of questions we're going to get, but I don't want it to be gun questions necessarily. I want it to be advice, life advice, okay? Because I think it'll be fun, and I hope it'll be hilarious, but I want to build that panel. That's coming up in 2 weeks. Next week is going to be it's not the best, but it's better than nothing chat. So my voice is about to quit. I better quit. I will say good night, everybody. Thanks for being here. God bless you. And bye, Felicia.